Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. I'm Bishop Darrell Watkins, the senior minister here at Sunshine Cathedral. With me today is Sunshine Cathedral's executive minister, he's also my husband, Bishop Robert Griffin, Sunshine Cathedral's Minister of Connections, the Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell, and Reverend Kevin Tisdall, the Sunshine Cathedral Minister of Education. Visit sunshinecathedral.org to learn more about our progressive faith community and how you can be a part of it no matter where you live in the world. And if you live in South Florida, be sure to check out the Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts, offering entertainment for the LGBTQ+ community to benefit the LGBTQ+ community. If you enjoyed the Queer God Squad, please share this or other episodes with your friends, family, and social media communities. At Sunshine Cathedral, we want you to know that you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Powerful God, powerless God, no God, or all is God. Real talk about divine reality. People who explore the mystery we call God will inevitably be confronted with this conundrum. If God is all good and there's unjust suffering in the world, then God must not be all powerful. And if God is all-powerful and there is unjust suffering in the world, God must not be all good. Some try to reconcile this by saying God is all-powerful, but doesn't help every person out of every jam for reasons too profound for us to understand. But that doesn't really make God look very gracious. Some will say God can't do much, but is always with us, holding us, cheering us on, wishing us well, loving us no matter what. Crying when we cry and rejoicing when things go well for us. So God is just like any good friend, except this friend we can't see. Some will say unanswered prayers can turn out to be the best blessings, but what about when they don't? Some throw up their hands and say maybe there is no God, certainly not one that can be relied on here and now. And still others say that God is not powerful, but is power itself. And if we learn how to conduct the power, then we get results. But we have to do our part, and we have to learn how to do our part. It isn't that God is saying no, it's that we haven't yet discovered how to plug in properly to God. Do you have a headache yet? And if you do, will you ask God to make it go away? And what if God doesn't seem to hear or care about your petition? It's time for some serious God talk. I have probably throughout my life embraced each of those, not at the same time, but each of those perspectives and more. And 2, 3, and 4 all to some degree make some sense to me. That God is a presence and just, doesn't control, can't control everything, but is there with you. You never have to face it alone. I like that. I like that idea. Or also that that there may not be a God, certainly not in the way it's been presented. And so there is sacredness, there is goodness, there is connection, there's energy, there is power, and there is a whole, and everything that makes that up, it's greater than the sum of its parts. So I can call that God, but that's not the God I was given in Sunday school. Right. So maybe there is no God, or maybe what I now understand to be God is just so different and from that. Or maybe God is a power that we can, just like we can manipulate electricity a little bit. Once we get through the conduits, we can make some things happen. But even our knowledge of electricity or hydraulics, or we can't do everything.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe we can influence outcomes with our understanding of the divine, but still there's going to be some things that just don't go our way. So any of that sort of makes sense to me. But the idea that there is a God who's just saying no, I'll cure you, but not you. You get a car, you don't even get a job. You get a boyfriend, you don't even get a bed to sleep in. No, I can't even believe in such a thing. Doesn't make any sense. And if that were the way of things, I would just reject it out of hand. I'm like, that's not a game I want to play. So yeah, I appreciate the question, and I appreciate all the possible answers, and there may be even more. I know that I think it was Rabbi Kushner who said, when you all get together in the synagogue to pray, that what you're doing is you're seeking the presence of God, and the miracle is that sometimes you find it.
Oh, wow.
And so,
Yeah.
and so, because he's like, I don't believe, like when you're reciting the prayers or you're reciting the scriptures or you're reciting creeds, he said, but people say, I don't believe all of that. And he says, that's not even the point. It's not the point to believe.
Right,
You don't have to
right.
believe it. The point is we come together seeking a thing, and sometimes we get it. So John Spong used to say about the creeds and the prayers in the prayer book or whatever, he said, I don't mind saying them. They're familiar. And they don't mean to me what they used to mean to me. Right. So they just mean to me what they mean to me now.
Right.
And so I don't mind, I have to redefine them for myself, but I don't. So there are all kinds of ways to work around it. I personally, my favorite way to pray really is honestly silence. To just sit in mindfulness, sit in awareness, and just feel the calmness arise. That's one of my favorite ways. But there's all kinds of affirmations, and there's so many things you can do. And I believe in energy. I feel energy, and sometimes that energy comes from a forest, or from the beach, from the ocean, from someone you're sitting with, from a crowd. All singing or cheering or whatever. And so there's just so many perspectives, and I don't think it matters which one you land on, and if you change your mind 1,000 more times. But I would hope that you would stay away from the God capriciously just saying yes to some and no to others, and that's not what I'm going to sell. But all the rest, we can put those in the gift shop and let you browse around.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I kind of grew up with the idea of a Santa God, and I think a lot of people did. That God was up in the heavens, keeping track. Who's naughty, who's nice. That, as I age, is kind of a childish way of thinking of God. Yeah. Now, I recognize that to some people that's still very important. That is the God of their understanding, and I can certainly respect that. But I think as I've aged, I just have a totally different understanding of God and what God can mean. And I'm not so kept up on using the word God all the time. Yeah. I mean, it tends to have a very male feel to it, God. I really kind of prefer universe.
Yeah, it's increasingly clunky for me.
It's more like the universe. And I appreciate silent prayer and just focusing on things. I actually do my best praying while I'm working. And I'm not saying sitting behind a desk working, but if I'm doing stuff for the food sharing program, I do a lot of praying during that time. Sometimes when I'm out walking, I do a lot of praying during that time. Those are my best times to pray, because I'm very mindful of not only what I'm doing, but why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I can really feel the energy, the connection of the universe, and why I do what I do.
Father John McNeil used to pray the New York Times.
Yeah.
He said that he would feel guilty that some of his brother priests would, they would just pray all the time with the rosary and the centering prayer. They'd spend hours and hours in prayer. And he said, I can't. I just can't. He said, but I love reading the newspaper. And so he would read every page of the New York Times, and then every story he'd stop and pray about what was going on. So there was an accident on highway, whatever, let's pray about that. Somebody's missing, let's pray about that.
Right.
Record heat, let's pray about that. Right. And so he would pray the New York Times. And if he didn't, he might not pray for the rest of the day. But that was his discipline. Yeah. That was his sort of liturgy of the hours, is that he would pray the New York Times, and that's how he could do it. And
Dorothea Soleil from Germany, I think she was a German theologian, did the same thing. She would praise the newspaper.
He might have gotten that from her.
Well,
because she was a Catholic theologian.
Regardless, I mean, yes, I remember that.
And every time I have a conversation like this, I always have to say to the people I'm talking to, yes, I believe in a higher power, because often my conversation will take them in a direction that they didn't expect, where I'm not using God language. I'm using, like Reverend Ann, universal language. I say to people, I absolutely believe that there is a power greater than us that has created the universe. Scientists call it the Big Bang Theory. Theologians call it whatever the heck they call it. But I've always felt that the whole construct of God is a human development. We needed something to call whatever was going on in our world. And as you look at every civilization that we know of, they all had some type of power structure, some type of deity, some type of power that was greater than them. And that's what I always say. We have to believe that there is a power out there that is greater than we are, and understand that we don't control it, and maybe that power doesn't fully control us. The other conversation I often have with people is whether or not we have free will. And that's always a fun conversation, because people will say that we were destined to be born, we have X number of minutes on earth, and then we will die, but it's all predetermined.
I'm not in
that is something that I could never accept.
No.
But that's a conversation that I have quite often. So there are a lot of ways that we can look at what God is and what God means to us. So I think it's a rich, rewarding conversation. And I'm going to start praying the New York Times. I like that.
The prayer business, what was, Yana Van Zandt said that the three prayers that she relies on is help me now, and thank you. That those are that's her prayer. Help me now, and thank you. And then also, I think anthropologists have suggested that that faith, religion, the gods, or whatever, helped with evolution. That this and it has become a social institution in every society. But yeah, we come together around the shaman, the priest, or whatever to do our thing.
Yes.
And we form community and bonds. And so now we're taking care of each other. Somebody gets bitten by a monkey or whatever, we take care of them. Somebody dies, we'll sit around and cry and bury the body or whatever. That religion helped us bring us together so we could take care of each other, and that kept us from dying out. Yeah. And so they really think that religion was. While we were begging the sun to smile, to shine rays of goodness on us, that other things happened.
Yes.
That were good. And that's the other thing too about, do we have free will? Yeah, I can put my pen down, but also there's chaos theory. They said when I did that had a ripple effect, because I slammed my pen down. Somebody just ran off the road in Bangladesh or whatever.
What's that? The butterfly effect.
Someone said earlier, and I'm going to childhood, it's like, the God of our childhood.
Yeah.
For me was, if you don't do what I tell you, God's going to get you.
Oh,
that type of job. And I just, kind of reflected on that, like, God, my God has changed so many times throughout life. And I think that's when I get frustrated when people say, God is the same yesterday as it was the day before, as it was like all of that. No. I would like to think that the God of my understanding is as old as I am, change as much as I do, do all the different things that I do, because that to me is a living God and a present God. And to try and they put this construct around God, well, you've just put God in a box.
Yay.
And I think that and we've been trying to take things out of the box. Well, maybe trying to take that God out of the box for you and experience a different kind of God. And, and my other thought was, is there a need for a construct such as God? Because I keep thinking, those of us around this table was raised with the concept of a God.
Right.
Younger generation, maybe not so much of an understanding of what God is, or that there is a God, or or even raised in a church, much more or less. Yeah. So I'm just fascinated about the younger generation concept of an understanding of higher power, spiritual disciplines, God of the universe, something greater than we are. What is their understanding? What do they bring to the table? What can they offer to this discussion on God?
Interesting.
I think finding things sacred is pretty innate. Now, the vocabulary may not be, but there's going to be something that's really special, that's really important, that's more important than anything else. And historically, we call that thing God. But it could be, who knows what it is. But even the atheist there's something that matters most. Maybe her kids, maybe her house or whatever. But there's something that that is so compelling, and that you can't narrow down, you can't define, you can't describe adequately. And so I don't know. I don't worry about our language for it.
Right.
It may become completely irrelevant. But the thing we're trying to talk about, I think that thing is just like air and electricity and gravity. It is what it is.
Yes.
And we'll just have to figure out ways to explore it or whatever. But somebody said something about God will get you, or if you weren't good or whatever. I've also heard people say that that's why your prayers aren't answered, because you're not living right.
Oh, God,
God's not going to answer the prayer of a whatever you are. You know, a divorcee, a drunk, a queer, God. And so that was always sort of abusive. And the other one is, well, if you had enough faith. Yeah, if you just believed, really believed, you say you believe, but you must not believe, because faith is what moves God. Belief is what moves God. And so it can become so abusive and so demoralizing. And that's where we're going. So I am a person of prayer, and I would be a person of prayer if I didn't believe in God. And in fact, if this is God, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in, that was had names on it. But a thing, like a face, a name, a thing, but the Tao that can be named is not the Tao.
Yeah.
It's not the real Tao. And so, I think that prayer is something we do. Prayer is something we experience. And I don't know that there has to be anything out there, or even in here, for that to work. I think prayer is its own thing.
Yeah.
And whether it's tapping in energy or generating energy or borrowing energy, doesn't matter. I don't have to know the ingredients to know that the food is good. And so I think I'll always be a person of prayer, no matter how my other beliefs change. I think I will always feel the need to commune with some deeper or higher part of myself that makes me feel better.
That's good.
Go.
Well, that's today with the Queer God Squad. We want to thank you for joining us. We're here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together.
We are all in this together, and remember that
you are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.
Bye.